The Minnesota Legislature is the bicameral legislature of the U.S. state of Minnesota, consisting of two houses, the Senate and the House of Representatives. Senators are elected from 67 single-member districts. In order to account for decennial redistricting, members run for one 2-year term and two 4-year terms each decade. They are elected for 4-year terms in years ending in 2 and 6, and for 2-year terms in years ending in 0. Representatives are elected for 2-year terms from 134 single-member districts formed by dividing the 67 Senate districts in half. Both houses of the legislature meet between January and the first Monday following the third Saturday in May each year, not to exceed 120 days per biennium. 4 sessions are held in the Minnesota state capitol in St. Paul, Minnesota. History. Early on in the Minnesota's history, the legislature had direct control over the city charters that set the groundwork for governments in municipalities across the state. In the early period, many laws were written for specific cities. The practice was outlawed in 1881, though attempts were still made. For instance, the long-standing Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board and the city's now defunct Library Board were both created by the legislature in the next several years. The Minnesota Constitution was amended in 1896 to give cities direct control over their own charters. In 1913, Minnesota legislators began to be elected on non-partisan ballots. This was a historical accident that occurred when a bill to provide for no-party elections of judges, city, and county officers was amended to include the legislature in the belief that it would kill the bill. While Minnesota legislators were elected on a non-partisan ballot, they caucused as liberals or conservatives, roughly the equivalent in most years to Democratic or Farmer, Labor and Republican, respectively. In 1974, House members again ran with party designation. In 1976, Senate members again ran with party designation. Following the ratification of the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution in 1920, women began to be elected to the Minnesota legislature. In 1922, Mabeth Hurdpage, Hannah Kempfer, Sue Metzger, Dickie Huff and Myrtle Kane were elected to the Minnesota House of Representatives. In 1984, the legislature ordered that all gender-specific pronouns be removed from the state laws. After 2 years of work, the rewritten laws were adopted. Only 301 of 20,000 pronouns were feminine. His was changed 10,000 times and he was changed 6,000 times. Recent history. Governor Jesse Ventura advocated the idea of changing the legislature to be unicameral while he was in office, but the concept did not obtain widespread support. In 2004, the legislature ended its regular session without acting on a majority of the planned legislation, largely due to political divisiveness on a variety of issues ranging from education to same-sex marriage. A proper budget failed to pass. A major anticipated projects such as the North Star Corridor commuter rail line were not approved. Governor Tim Pawlenty, an advocate of the line, was expected to request a special session, but ended up helping the coordination of other funds to continue development of the line. The lack of action in the 2004 session is said to be one reason why a number of Republican House members lost the seats in the November election. The Democratic Farmer-Labor minority grew from 53 to 66 and the Republican majority was reduced from 81 to 68. The Senate was not up for election in 2004, so the DFL was able to maintain its 5-seat majority in the upper house. One state senator, Sheila Kiskaden of Rochester, was an Independence Party member until December 2005 when she began caucusing caucusing with the DFL. Although she had been an elected Republican in the past, the DFL majority increased to 6 senators when Kiskaden announced her re-affiliation with the DFL in preparation to run for lieutenant governor on a ticket with DFL Kelly Doran. There is a mandatory adjournment date specified in the state constitution. The legislature shall not meet in regular session, nor in any adjournment thereof, after the first Monday following the third Saturday in May of any year. Quote, in 2005, the regular session ended without passage of an overall budget, and a special session was subsequently called by Governor Pawlenty. No overall budget passed by the end of the fiscal year on June 30, and much of the government shut down for the first time in the state's history. However, some essential services remained in operation and some departments received funding in legislation. A compromise budget was approved and signed into law 2 weeks later. Television broadcasts. When the legislature is in session, proceedings of both houses are broadcast on television via the Minnesota channel and also online via the legislature's website. Gallery. Previous legislatures: 88th Minnesota Legislature, 87th Minnesota Legislature, 86th Minnesota Legislature, 85th Minnesota Legislature, 84th Minnesota Legislature, 83rd Minnesota Legislature, 82nd Minnesota Legislature.